Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation 2021 Festival Edition. My name is Kelly Devine. I'm the Artistic Director, and Nina Strike, the Executive Director. We're going to be joined in conversation today with David Pavlosky, the Director for the film Stand Up, Stand Out, The Making of a Comedy Movement. You can learn all about the ways to see the film live during our September festival or online during the virtual portion by going to peacefilmfest.org. We'll have updates and ticket sales live very soon. Also, please check out all of our social media channels for further updates. And with no further ado, let's join David Pavlosky in thanking him for his film and for joining us today.
Hi, David. It's wonderful to welcome you. And David is actually a festival alumnus. So we're so glad to have your new film. Your last film was in 2016. So let's start out by telling us a little bit about the film that we're in this festival.
I'm so happy to be back, Nina and Kelly. It's always a pleasure to see you and be a part of your wonderful festival. Stand Up, Stand Out, The Making of a Comedy Movement is about how three gay teachers in the 1970s fought for the right to teach against Anita Bryant's campaign of Save the Children. And in doing so, they organized so well that they decided not only had they won the rights to teach, but that they were going to open a club, a place where they could actually be seen and be out. And at that time, it turned out to be comedy was the real draw for what they wanted to do. So these three teachers decided, we're going to open a stand-up comedy club that's going to do cabaret, comedy, and it's going to have a cafe.
It's an incredible film. And one of the things that you always wonder about when you see this kind of history brought to life is, how did you find out about it? How did you connect with this particular chapter?
Oh, there's a good little story here. Very indirectly, my partner and I decided to do a stand-up comedy class to improve our public speaking. So we took it here in New York City, and our professor was telling us, if there's anything about you that's unique, you need to do a joke about it. So there was a guy that she spoke about that had a bad leg, and she said, well, you have to make a joke about that right away, because it's something that people are going to notice. And if you don't draw attention to it and speak about it, people will be uncomfortable. And so we all kind of looked at each other and went, well, what do we have to talk about? And so what happened was 5 of us came out as gay and lesbian, saying we wanted to tell stories about that unique part of ourselves. And then we had to perform live in front of 200 people after we finished the class. And so after I went through this process of learning to write comedy and to have the courage to stand up and do comedy as a gay person, I thought, well, who was there before Ellen DeGeneres that did this? There has to be like some kind of story here. So then I started to like search through Google and Facebook, and then I went to YouTube and I found Karen Ripley, whose comedy I loved. And so I just Facebooked Karen and we started to talk. And then she told me about the Valencia Rose Cabaret, Restaurant, and Cafe. Now, in the back of my mind as a filmmaker, you're always thinking about, how will I make this work and what is this story about? And I thought, how can I bring like gay comedy to the surface in a way that's going to have a narrative structure? And the more I talked with Karen and the more I realized that the Valencia Rose was the crossroads for performers and history and all of that, I went, this could possibly work. And I said possibly because the club no longer existed. So my biggest challenge was, how can I bring to life this club that existed in the 1980s in a way that the audience might relate to it? Can I possibly do that?
Well, I think you succeeded. I know while I was watching it, I think you did a tremendous job in communicating the vitality behind it, even though you were, as you said, working with largely archival materials, but you really pieced it together in a way that made it feel vibrant, and that filled in a lot of the blanks, really, for, and I think in a way, one of the things as I was thinking about approaching this conversation with you is that the cabaret may have been short-lived in terms of its operation as a comedy venue, but what deep ripples are continuing to span out from the realization of those three folks.
It's amazing because, I was thinking about our talk today, and I really thought about kind of my acting past when I was an actor and the comedy and tragedy aspect of life. And I think that this film really evokes the sense of both comedy and tragedy. Because, we're talking about not only the 1980s and the gay liberation movement, but we're also talking about the epidemic of AIDS. And we're living in an epidemic right now. And I think that brings a layer of understanding of what it is to be struggling against certain things, to be very aware of yourself as a community. And so it was very interesting for me in a way to be able to just participate in making this film and bringing that history to life, a very important history.
Was there anything at all, as you mentioned, your approach, how do you tell the story? Was there anything at all that really still surprised you, or that changed some of your underlying assumptions as you dug more deeply into the history?
What's interesting, like the first line in the film, it's not the first line in the film, but when Tom Amiano says, "We didn't even have money for a microphone." I mean, to me, that said, here are these people who have very little money, if any at all, and yet as a community, they came together to say, we're going to do something, whatever it is, and we're going to succeed. And they persisted. And I think that they persisted because they finally, well, not finally, but in a different way, had a sense of community that drew them together around a goal that they wanted to achieve. And you know what? They had fun doing it. And I think that's what's really important in whatever you want to accomplish in your life, is you have to enjoy what you're doing. And another part of why I did this film was, as a filmmaker, my other films didn't explore comedy. And after doing a film about a hate crime and another film about my family not accepting my partner, Scott, in Don't Bring Scott, and then doing another documentary, Passionate Politics, The Life and Work of Charlotte Bunch, I wanted to explore humor. But all of those other films became the foundation of how I could put this film together, because it was personal stories reflected from my own experience in Don't Bring Scott, the historical documentary with Passionate Politics, and then the other sense of a hate crime and homophobia from Puzzles When Hate Came to Town. Because my film deals uniquely, I think, in a way with history and humor. And I don't think we see a lot of humor with LGBTQ history and homophobia.
I think that is a wonderful point, the power of humor, because, and this sort of circles back to what you had said initially regarding your stand-up class, right? That there is a real power in acknowledging your difference, in understanding and understanding the awkwardness of it. And it's a kind of I mean, sometimes it can be done in a cheerful way or a sarcastic way. But even in the sarcastic way, it's a hand that's extended that says, "I get it. Let's talk about this." Right?
Exactly. And it also can be self-deprecating, which I think is really interesting, because whether we're on the playground as a teenager or as an elementary school student, there are bullies out there, whether it's the moral majority, whether it's the bully on the playground that's going to beat you up. And how do you deal with that if you're not going to fight people that way? And comedy can disarm people. And I think it also can be a salve upon our own bodies, in a sense, when we can laugh at a situation. And I think it's taken me time as I've matured and gotten older to really understand how important comedy and humor really is. And I think we need it now more than ever in the period that we're living in.
Oh, agreed, agreed. And now for the, one of the things that is so important to Global Peace Film Festival as an organization is bringing to our audience models and ideas of positive change that people can take back into their own lives, into their own communities, to promote a just and more peaceful world, right? And certainly maybe taking stand-up classes might be a part of that. But what are some of the ways that we've shown so much of your work because your work really speaks to these important issues that people need to grapple with, and so your work is always connected to that community change. How would you frame this film in regard to that concept?
I hope I can answer this question correctly by saying, find your voice, find what you need to express, and do it by yourself if you have to, and find others to join with you, and reach out and express yourself. The history of the gay community, the LGBTQ community, was often one of invisibility, and they had to rise up and become visible again by not being in dark bars and not being in dark places. And what you have to do is express yourself, and express yourself proudly. I will tell you, as a filmmaker, I'm not always sure I'm even going to finish my film, but you know what I do? I persist. I wait and I be patient. And every time, fortunately, and I think this can happen for everyone, if you persist with commitment, when one door closes, another one will open. And I would say for anybody within the Global Peace Film Festival community, follow your heart, follow your goal, but have commitment and persistence.
Those are words to live by. Absolutely. So what's next for you, David? And also tell us how our audiences can support your work.
Well, please come see the film during the festival, whether online or whether in person. You're going to laugh, you're going to learn a lot, you're going to have a good time, and it's only 35 minutes. So I think you can fit that into your schedule, people, so please do it. I would say the other thing is I want to share this film wherever I can. I think it's a great academic resource that could be done in colleges, maybe even in high schools, because I think we need to tell our LGBTQ history wherever we can. So you can reach out to me. The film festival website is standupstandoutfilm.com. Let me know if you want to see the film, if I can share it with your community or whoever, but that's how you can support me. Just help me get this story out. Was there another question? Did I miss something?
What projects are you working on next?
Oh, you know what? It's really interesting. So a couple of people have approached me that there are other people that were at the Valencia Rose who I didn't capture in my film, because there literally are hundreds, and some of those people are around. So I may do a web series with little vignette interviews with other people that have been out there. I mean, Kate Clinton, a famous comedian, LGBT comedian, also performed there. There are other people. So I'm looking at that. And then Romanowski and Phillips, who is the singing duo in my documentary, I had a wonderful interview with them, and the footage that I use in the film currently, Stand Up, Stand Out, is wonderful. And historically, how far have we come when so many of their songs from the 80s and 90s apply to today's situations? So I'm actually thinking about doing another short film that's going to have interview footage with them. It's going to be interwoven with some of the songs that I feel are as valid today as they were back in the 80s. So I'm actually editing that right now and putting that together. So, and appropriately, the working title, which is one of their songs, is Let's Flaunt It.
That's great. I'm going to definitely be looking forward to that.
Me too.
Thank you so much, David. And thank everyone out there who has watched this conversation. Again, please do support David by checking out standupstandoutfilm.com and looking for the other films that he had mentioned. Many of those had played at previous Global Peace Film Festival iterations. We are really big fans of your work, David. And please do go to peacefilmfest.org so that you can be up to the minute with all the updates regarding the September 2021 festival, which begins September 20th through the 26th for our in-person screenings, and then picks up September 27th through the 3rd of October for all of the virtual screenings. Anything that you see at the live in-person screenings that you love and you know your friends will miss, tell them they have another chance to watch them virtually and check everything out. Follow us on social media, consider joining our mailing list, and again, thank you, David.
Thank you.